Hey folks, I wanted to make a video here to discuss something that is actually even hard to put into words. Some people on the forums have been describing it as a sonic boom. Some people could describe it as a resonance. Some people call it the word is buffeting. Lots of people call it air buffeting. And what's happening is, as you're driving along, you can hear this kind of vibration, don't know where it's coming from, and a lot of people describe it as a sensation, like an ear pressure type thing. And the reason why all these words are used for this is because it's hard to put into words what is happening. And so because of this, it's hard to find information on the internet as to what is happening and how to solve it. This is a problem that I think affects all Tesla Model S's. It probably also affects Tesla Model X because of the nature of it. And what's happening here is this. The car is a hatchback car. It has a hatch here that's hinged up at the top, has these hinge points here. And what happens here is, and it's sealed all around here, and so what happens is, when you're driving along, what can happen is, if this isn't completely immobilized, what happens is this kind of vibrates. And when it does that, because the seal is so good, it makes it these kind of compression waves. Any kind of audio that's happening here, any kind of that's happening in the windows, basically gets kind of projected into the cab. And especially if you can imagine this kind of thing, this kind of pumping sensation can be kind of putting pressure on your ears, and it's very unpleasant to some people. Now, what's interesting about this is there's a percentage of people, and not very many fortunately, who, when they ride in these cars, even just once, they say, I never want to ride in that again. It's just, there's this sensation, I don't understand it, I know that I don't like it. So I would estimate about 10% of the people that way. It might be a high estimate, it might be 5%, something like that. Then there's about 20% of the people that they hear it, they perceive it, but it's not kind of bad enough to to avoid the car or anything like that. And I'm kind of in that. What I would use the phrase, it limits my enjoyment of the car. And then there's about 70% of the people who just don't even perceive that there's a problem whatsoever. I mean, it's funny because I'm riding in the car with my wife, and I'm telling them I'm hearing this thing, and she says, oh, I can't hear anything, which is good. And it seems like most people are that way. But anyway, I want to talk about, so now that I've talked about what causes it and the phenomenon, it's particularly bad on this. It's a P85D. It has the spoiler here. The spoiler adds additional weight, which is just additional stuff that's going to be causing this thing to shake. And so a partial solution is to adjust these contact points on the hatch, and there's 4 of them. There's 2 of them that are in the rear here, and there's 2 of them that are here. The adjustment for those ones is here and here. So what I'm going to talk about is the adjustment method and how to tell whether they're out of adjustment or not, aside from the feeling you have. Like, gosh, that's yours. As soon as I started driving this car, I knew what was going on, and I took out what I've got here is a piece of it's an envelope, which is better than just a piece of paper. And so what you do is you put the envelope or piece of paper right on where the contact point is going to be, and then close the trunk. And you can close it manually, or if you got a power lift gate like this, that's great. And what you shouldn't be able to do is just pull the paper right out. And when I first got this car, this contact point here and that one right there, you could just pull it right out because it just wasn't contacted there. And so a good place to start would be, and I'll show you how you adjust it, is to make it so that it's pretty firm, but you can still pull it out. That's kind of the nominal way to adjust it. And what I found was that on this one, and a lot of people on the forum too say, I adjusted it, it didn't solve the problem. And so I kept kind of messing around with this thing, and the reason why I'm making this video is to show you, if you're experiencing this for once, adjust it the kind of the normal way of just do this, close it, and adjust these bumpers. And what you do is you unscrew them. It's like there's a screwing type of it's like a threaded type thing. It just looks like it's a rubber thing, but that is actually a thread. And so if you screw it in, that's going clockwise. And maybe I'll illustrate something here. I'm going to take this and go, it's half a turn, 1 turn, 1.5 turns. Okay, so what I'll do is close it right here, and just to illustrate the point. Yeah, and so that's you know, maybe a little bit tighter than that is where you'd want it to be normally, where you could just, you know, it creates a pretty good drag, but you could still get it out. And so, and you can do this with each one of these. So come up here on these ones here, you just kind of put it right around there, close it, make sure you don't get your fingers anywhere near there when it's closing. And then once it's closed, just try to yank it and so forth. So, so what I found on this one here was that I really had to go well beyond the point of just contacting. Like here, you notice that after I put this in a full 1.5 turns, that I could still presented a little bit of drag to it, but I had to really, what I noticed on this one here, I was just about to give up, but I had to just basically get it to the point where I can't remove the paper at all. I'll try it on this one here just to illustrate the point. I had to get it to the point where, I mean, if I pull really hard, you can see that I can pull it out, but that's about where I had to get this one until it stopped being uncomfortable to drive. And so, so like I said, I just wanted to put this out there. By the way, one of the things in my research here, I found that this problem doesn't exclusively affect Teslas too. There's some people talking about this in Mazda forums, and there's some people who are very upset. In a Porsche forum, there's a particular type of Porsche that does this, and I get the impression that they don't have these adjustments. And so, so this is something you can try. You know, what's interesting is that, and like I say, I think for the 20% of people that this kind of annoys, but they're not running out of the car, adjusting these and adjusting them and getting it progressively firmer, that means progressively more counterclockwise and until it presents more force to this, that's going to be the solution. And for the remaining 10%, that's basically not enough, because even after adjusting that, it still vibrates a little bit. You can still hear and feel some of this fluttering going on. There was one person in the forum I saw, what they did was they took a piece of rope and they taped a piece of rope all the way around here with the idea that the rope kind of contacts this rubber here and basically presented some additional resistance, because the whole point here is just to try to immobilize this and stop it from vibrating. Because one of the things is, if I put my fingers here and if I take my fist here and just pound, you can feel that it's still moving. Those rubber stoppers, even though I got them backed out pretty good, they're still compliant. And so that rope trick that they did basically restricted just some additional kind of cushioning force on this to try to immobilize it more. So anyway, like I say, I wanted to make this video. This information is hard to come by. I didn't see any videos on this at all, how to solve it. There's some discussion in forums, but a lot of confusion. And so I'm hoping this video is helpful. If you've got this problem, and that this technique will help to increase your enjoyment of a Tesla. And if you figured out anything else, any additional way, I mean, there could be additional pads to put here. This only got these 4 contact points here, but there could be additional, you know, like rubber feet that you'd put here to contact this part of the trunk and just try to immobilize it. If you come up with any additional solutions, I'd appreciate it if you'd leave it in the contacts below this video. And thanks for watching.